The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Well, hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip.
And I'm CJ.
And it is Friday in the River, another exciting week in Fall River. But before we go on, I have a public service announcement.
Okay.
There is a recall alert for Fabuloso.
Oh, Fabuloso cleaning.
4.9 million bottles of Fabuloso multi-purpose cleaning have been recalled. So if you've got any of that stuff, it's being recalled, you know.
It's actually, that's a very popular cleaner in this area.
It is,
Yeah.
very. And they got like a lemon one and a purple, I don't know what the purple one is, and a green
The tropical fruit one.
Yeah,
and
whatever,
they
they got
a
all
whole
kinds of different
Yep.
scents attached
exactly.
to them. So,
Yep.
and it is a pretty popular
Yes.
thing. So if you've got any of that stuff, just be aware there's a recall alert.
Yep, and you can file to get your money back on it by taking a picture of the bottle and filing the form online, and you'll be all set.
Yes, and now on to the news. Fall River man was punched in the head by a man recklessly operating an ATV on the street. According to the victim, the man on the ATV was riding wheelies. It's actually, popping wheelies, but behind his vehicle and assaulted him when he asked him to stop. He should have just put it in reverse and back. No, I didn't say that. No. Hey, look. What is this? 3 years now, 4 years we've been dealing with this ATV criminality. A police officer gets dragged behind a vehicle.
Yep.
They surrounded some person a while back. And what has our illustrious mayor done about this? Nada, crickets, nothing. No, nobody. We ignore it. Actually, he told them to lay off. Stop, leave him alone. Yeah, leave him alone. Let him terrorize everybody in the city.
Right.
Yeah, he's like, well, again, then what could he do? He's tying up 50 cops at the library, and we got 145 people total on patrolmen. So we don't have the police to actually police the city. So that's his stance on crime. Ignore it. No, don't worry about bullet holes in your house. Unless you got a bullet hole, I don't want to hear it. And unless my house gets a bullet hole in it, I'd say that, well, not everybody's got bullet holes.
That's right.
There's not bullets flying.
That's right.
I mean, this is just ridiculous. And then the thing that kills me is, he's like, what alternate universe does he live in? Then in the next breath, he tells you how all these people are coming down from Boston to live here. You get terrorized by ATVs. You get bullets flying all over the place. We're number one in crime. The educational system's underperforming. But they're all coming down. They're coming down on the bullet train. Everybody else knows that the T is collapsing. And these people. It's just nuts. I mean, I just don't, I can't understand. I don't know what he wants. Well, I know why he wants a third term. The developers need to do some more development.
That's
we'll
right.
get into that later.
That's right.
But, I just want your perspective on this ATV issue.
Well, I can tell you.
And look it's February.
I know.
Granted, we have a few mild days. What is it going to be like in the summer when they're all out?
Well, I'll tell you, a few months back, I had one of those ATV drivers on my backside when I was driving, and he flew around me in a no-pass zone, obviously, almost hit the car coming onward, and I screamed out the window a little bit of a profanity.
Just a little?
Just a little.
A little profanity.
And then he decided to follow me home.
Really?
Yeah. And he said, you got a mouth on you? I said, yeah, I've got a mouth on me. I said, hold on a minute while I get in my car. He said, what do you mean get in your car? I said, yeah, I'm going to show you what a car can do to you when you're acting like... Yeah. And he's like, oh, whatever. And he drove away real fast. You know, again, big mouths attached to canary asses, you know?
Yeah, alligator mouths
Yep.
attached to a canary,
Yep, an ass, yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like, is this what it's going to come to in this city? That they're going to follow you home now and then attempt to
course.
threaten you and
Well, that's
assault
the way,
you?
That's the society today. I saw something that was so disgusting last night to show about the disparity, how criminals are being coddled or they're ignored. Criminality is being ignored if you're the right race. They showed a tale of two similar incidences and how they were handled. And I forgot where they were, but they weren't in Massachusetts, but they were, you know, this was nationwide, but they were doing it. Well, they had some thug go into a convenience store, I guess, or a gasoline/convenience store, and he began to steal things or terrorize people and stuff, and there was a firefighter there, and the firefighter basically, like, told him to get out and kind of, like, took him out, and the guy ran to his car, and a firefighter, he went and got a gun, and it was a high-capacity magazine gun. And then the firefighter got into he was going to shoot him, and they got into an altercation. And this individual was losing the altercation. During the altercation, he handed it to his girlfriend, and his girlfriend shot the firefighter to death. And they're not filing any charges.
Amazing, isn't it?
Isn't it? One of George Soros's DAs are not going to fire because he was the right color.
Mm-hmm. Well,
and in the other event, the guy went in, terrorized everybody, and he was white, and they're charging him. They're charging him with a criminal act, and he was actually trying to abate the situation. He was there trying to get the criminal out, but they're charging him. So this country is totally upside down. It's got nothing to do, and it's got nothing to do with the color. As Martin Luther King said, the content of your character.
Right.
Not the these people have. They're allowing these criminals. They're no longer criminals. They're terrorists. They are domestic terrorists. And like they say, they'll follow you home. They'll surround your car. They'll threaten you. And the last time I checked, in the preamble to the Constitution, it said they're supposed to ensure domestic tranquility and provide for the common defense.
That's right.
And promote the general welfare for us, for ourselves and our posterity.
That's right.
Because they do ordain and establish this.
Constitution.
That's right. But no, and we got a mayor. This is going to be 4 straight years. 4 straight years we're looking at this problem. Has the city council, in their infinite stupidity, ever decided to really pass some new laws? I don't want to hear Runaway Rumsey. Does he even live in a city?
I don't know.
I don't think so. Telling me there's already laws on the books. Well, enforce them. But we need stronger laws. There's no prohibition about any city or town passing a law that's stronger than the existing law.
That's right.
There are laws against them passing things that are more lenient.
That's right.
And people don't know that. Why doesn't the city council adopt what Providence did? Take those damn things away from them, bring them to the junkyard and crush them.
That's right.
And they're going to go somewhere else to terrorize it. And until everybody in this country rises up. And then you can't defend yourself, because if you try to defend yourself, they're going to charge you.
Yep.
Not the person you're defending yourself against.
Right.
There was a case in Arizona now it's like you watch TV, it actually makes you nauseous now, how bad this country's become. 73-year-old man and a frail 73-year-old man shot in Arizona, and Arizona, you do have the castle doctrine and stand your ground.
Yep.
Yeah, and you can defend your property. Well, had an illegal alien attempting to break into his home. He shot him to death. Even though with all that law, they gave him this liberal judge, who I find is odd. I have to look this one up because I got to do a little bit more, because I just heard this last night. I got to look this up. And according to the report, the judge doesn't even have a law degree. I didn't know that was well, maybe it is in Arizona. He's an elected judge, but he doesn't have a law degree. And he's one of Soros's boys. This 73, it was sad to this frail man sitting shackled at a table in a courtroom with his hands and feet shackled, asking the judge if he could get a video conference with his wife, because his 73-year-old wife is all alone, and he lives right on the border, and his property is constantly being invaded by illegals. And the judge said, you'll have to go down and talk to the sheriff's department about this. And they walked him away in shackles. $1 million in bail. $1 million. He's going, a 73-year-old guy. But all those BLM idiots that were shooting people, burning down billions of dollars, nothing. And if they did have to go get short bail, don't worry about it. Kamala's gonna get some for you. They'll have a GoFundMe page to let you out of jail.
Right.
So there's something radically wrong here, and it should not be coming to, that's not the part that should be coming to Fall River, but apparently we're going to ignore crime. And the only way we're not going to ignore crime is by electing people who will pay attention to the fact that this city deserves to be safe.
Well, you said it best. I can't say anything better than that. But you brought up education. And I spoke with you last night about something going on, and
Exactly.
I had a long conversation.
Allegation.
I had a long conversation with a parent who has filed numerous complaints and concerns with the Fall River public school system, including Mr. Damaris over at Durfee, who's the principal, and Maria Ponce, who is the superintendent. It appears that there's an allegation that this parent's daughter was touched inappropriately by a faculty member, a teacher. And according to what this parent has said, the parent went to the school and said, has the police been notified? They said the police have been notified, but we don't have a policy in place to handle this type of situation. Imagine that.
What?
No policy in place.
No policy for inappropriate sexual contact.
That's right.
In a school department in today's day and age.
Right.
I bet you they got a policy about transgender bathrooms.
They do.
But they don't have a policy against inappropriate touching.
Right.
Again, who was a school committeeman for 2 terms and is now our mayor?
Paul Coogan.
No policy.
Who is also a vice principal at the school.
Well, and wait a minute. Let's look at this. Let's look at this. There was no policy how to handle a superintendent who was sexually harassing people.
That's right.
Violating the Age Discrimination Act, right? And being a bully and creating a hostile work environment. But what was their excuse then? There's no policy.
There's no policy.
But there is a policy. There is a policy. The city has adopted, and you had to do it annually, about sexual harassment, because that was a federal deal. And I used to have to give that one, ensure that everybody on my shift had to sign that they received the training again, and they had a video to go along with it. You know, the school department it's like the hermit. They cover everything up. We saw it with Malone, and I think I heard a little thing about this situation. And isn't the individual concerned the brother of someone who was on the school committee?
Yes. From the allegation is yes.
That's the allegation.
That's the allegation. Yes.
Isn't that odd? And wasn't that same individual involved in the Malone cover-up?
I believe so.
Yeah, and it's amazing how these people, and it's always the same thing. We don't have a policy. Well, you know, it must be really hard for you school committee people to breathe with your head that far up your derriere, because you don't have any policies for anything. After Malone, we should have a policy for everything.
That's right.
So you're going to tell me you can make policy about critical race theory, about transgender bathrooms, about everything. But you can't make a policy about someone's child being inappropriately groped or touched. And I'm not saying a guy's guilty. I don't know. It's an allegation. But to make a parent jump through hoops immediately and try to even get anything done, it leaves the perception that they're sweeping it under the rug.
Well, here's the furtherance of this whole mess. Allegedly,
Yes.
The school is now trying to discredit the child.
Oh, isn't that a real positive environment for students? That will really encourage children to come forward.
Well, that's the big thing. They believe, this parent believes that there are other children that are afraid to come forward.
Of course they are.
Because they're afraid of getting the same treatment, of retribution. Now, I know this child. I've witnessed this child grow up from infancy to now. This child is an amazing child. I'm not going to say she's never lied, but I've never heard her lie. I've never questioned her veracity, never. But it appears to me that they immediately went into a mode where they started trying to cover up for this instructor. Any other school system, and we hear it every day on the news, teachers accused, immediately, what do? They place them on administrative leave.
Administrative leave, exactly.
That's immediately. This teacher stayed in the school all day. This teacher is still in the school today. No administrative leave.
Yeah, look, it's out of it's out of control. Look what happened down in Virginia with that parent who's, I believe it was Virginia, whose child was assaulted, attempted rape by a transgender boy in the girls' bathroom. Okay? A boy who identified as a girl.
Right.
And the school tried to cover it up. And people go to the school committee meeting, and what happens? The FBI brands the parents terrorists.
Right.
They wonder why in today's society the very fabric of the civilization is breaking down, because this is what they do. They cover it up, then they accuse these people. You want to provide a safe environment for your children to be educated. I'm not saying that every allegation is true, but as you said, to have no policy today for sexual inappropriateness, they should all be fired. The superintendent should be fired. The school committee should be thrown out on its ear. To have the temerity to say, well, we don't have a policy for that, so the guy can act. Well, that's like saying, look, they got no policy against murder. So I guess if somebody kills somebody in the middle of the school, well, they're going to have to check it out. Maybe, I don't know. Let's try to discredit them. You know, I don't know. This is nuts. This is insane.
Well, what's interesting?
What a broken, pathetic system. And, you know, and this is the educational system you think the yuppies from Boston are going to come down. Besides being 335th, we heard Malone, We don't have a policy. How long's it been since Malone's been gone? Apparently, where's a policy on anything that affects the work environment for the employees and the children who are there to be educated?
And who's responsible
I don't
for
see
that?
them.
Who's responsible for that? Who's responsible for that?
The
chairman of the school committee, who is the mayor.
Who is the mayor.
That's
and
right.
who is a former what?
Former school committee member and former vice principal.
Amazing.
Okay?
Well, you know what we've just established? If we were investigating this, we've said that Paul Coogan has a patent for 30-some years of doing
ignorance.
Absolutely nothing.
Of ignorance.
Of doing nothing
Yeah.
about a problem.
Right.
Same thing with the ATVs. Same thing with the police department eroding to this position while we're #1 in crime. It's pretty well established that this guy does nothing except keep your mouth shut, don't say anything about it, cover it up, and maybe by next month it'll go away.
Well, one of the interesting things is the parent asked if the police department had been notified. I believe I said this already.
Yep.
And the parent was told yes. When the parent checked with the police department, they had no idea what the parent was talking about. The school resource officers were not present.
You know what my response to that was when I found that out? Lawyer!
That's exactly.
Lawyer!
That was exactly the response. And as a matter of fact, that parent is meeting with a lawyer on Monday.
Lawsuit.
That's it.
Here we go. Let's put this on the front page of the Herald News where it belongs.
Or Channel 10, Channel 12, Channel
10,
6,
12,
Channel
5,
25.
4,
Yep.
You know.
And, because remember, we saw this in Tiverton when there was an accusation against a teacher there. Administrative leave. We saw it in Cranston. We saw it in Warwick. We saw it in North Kingstown. I mean, we've seen it everywhere. Administrative leave. Why couldn't this instructor be placed on administrative leave?
Because it's Fall River.
And the person's politically connected.
Absolutely. But look, and let's get this straight, because they say, oh, you guys, no, look, #1, this is a serious allegation. This
That's
is an
right.
adult taking advantage of a child.
That's right.
So #1, nobody is saying that all of these allegations are true. All we're saying is that there are places that actually handle this correctly. You put the individual on administrative leave. Take him out of that loop.
That's right.
Remove him. Put him on administrative leave. Do a thorough and complete investigation. Like the investigation that we know, we'll never know how thorough and complete on Malone. We never
Right.
know anything. But do a thorough investigation. And if the teacher or employee is guilty, you prosecute them to the full extent of the law. But if they are innocent, vindicate them and punish the student, because the students also have to have the understanding that this is not something you can do for fun or retaliation against a teacher you don't like.
Yeah, you don't get a C and say,
Yeah, I'm going to file it. Yeah. But I mean, you've got to be fair. So, but you have to be more outraged by the fact that this is being covered up. See, we're talking about how you handle it. But the reality is, my problem is, again, like Malone, and like a whole bunch of other things, I can go back a long way to the brother of a guy who had a brother on a school committee, and the other brother was a superintendent of schools, and it was an issue, and that thing went away.
Yep.
They buried that baby. He left, but they buried that baby. And the thing is, this is a pattern in Fall River, especially in the school department. They're never transparent. They never deal with anything. To me, it's not the fact, it's reprehensible. Obviously, it shouldn't have happened if it did happen, but we're not saying it did happen. What we're saying is have a thorough investigation. Make it, and it doesn't have to be a public investigation at first, because obviously these are serious charges.
That's right.
And they have to be investigated. But the public should then understand the outcome, and if the person's guilty, they should be prosecuted. If the person's innocent, they should be vindicated. And the individual who brought the thing there should be some kind of punishment. But it's not about, it is about that, because it's a heinous thing.
Right.
But what it's about is the fact that we've got all these six figures, huge money to be leaders in the schools. school committeemen who are now asking for a pay raise. What do they do? How can this happen again? We've had attempted rapes in the school. We've had assaults. We had videos of assaults. And every time you go to these people, it's the same crap. Oh, there's no policy.
There's no policy for it, yeah.
No, there is a policy. It's called reasonable ethics.
Right.
You're ethically bound, morally bound to do something when there's an allegation that a child had an inappropriate sexual advance.
If they feel uncomfortable, that's all it should be required. If a child feels uncomfortable by a touch, by a position they're placed in, by any of that, that should be enough to generate concern.
Yeah, but then again, we get back to that one thing, CJ. There has to be a policy. And it seems in Fall River, every time something occurs, they'll go, well, that's not in the policy, or we don't have a policy.
Right.
Well, when the hell are you going to get a policy? Where are the parents? Lawyer, lawyer, lawyer. That's what I say. Lawyer, lawyer, lawyer. Enough is enough. This has got to stop.
Well, the question is, and I always look at it this way, if this allegation is correct, if this allegation is true, how many other students have had similar contact with this instructor? And if so, why haven't they come forward, besides being afraid? Because now you have a student that has come forward, because this student has been raised to say, don't keep your mouth shut, stand up for yourself, and make sure what's right is right. And I have to commend the parents for that, because that's something that everyone should teach their kids to do. But again, when you're in this system, I mean, they've got the school adjustment counselors, according to the parent, allegedly working to discredit the child as well. Talking about filings of 51As, which is child abuse complaints. I mean, and the parent wants to file a 51A on a child abuse complaint against the school system. And guess what DCYF told them? Not in our purview. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
They're responsible for the protection of children, and that's not in their purview.
But that's what they do for each other. They cover for people. This is historic in Fall River.
Oh, I know.
It's we have there are very few things that Fall River really is at the top of the curve that are positive, and this isn't positive. But that's where we're always at the top of the curve, and that is covering up stuff and ignoring violations of the law. We know that. We remember, I still remember vividly somebody walking in front of the city council and admitting to falsifying an overtime sheet and sending it and applying and getting someone paid through a department that it wasn't even in, let alone filing it for your own department, admitting that's a criminal act.
And nothing
you
happened.
Falsify. Not only nothing happened, he got a pay raise.
Right.
And the council's just sitting there going, ugh. Well, I got caught. And that's when we heard the famous phrase, and you know it.
Keep your head down, keep your mouth shut, and everyone will forget about it.
And we got a lot of other stuff to talk about, but we spent a lot because this is really important, so we can close it out. But I'll tell you, to be continued. We got the Lincoln School to talk about next week.
Oh, yeah, they got a tie this week.
That's right.
So a tie is like a tiff, in case you're wondering. And, that's going to be interesting because now it's in the front page of today's paper. It may become apartments soon, but who's the developer? I wonder. We'll have to wait and see. I want to thank you all for watching. Remember, stay safe, stay angry, and hold your politicians accountable. Have a great day, and we'll see you on Monday.